Now I'm just going to check.
We'll find it.
Okay, so fellas, we should be on, and I'm just looking on my phone to make sure that we are. Oh, we have viewers. We are definitely live.
There's
Nice.
people paying attention.
People are paying attention. Okay, so here we are with the San Jose Jazz Collective. Am I saying that right?
You are, yes.
And I know a little bit about what's going on. Wally, you're the leader. Would you like to introduce the fellas? There was some friendly banter going on ahead of time. And I just couldn't keep up. So I'm going to
well, that's why the collective doesn't exist, because we're all friends as well. So after a year in isolation, we hope that's still true. But under this part, this like I saw on TV, above me is Oscar Paganlinon, our sax player, and that way it's John Morley, our trumpet and flugelhorn player. Below him is Saul Sierra, the man that plays bass and keeps me honest. And Brian Ho below me, our organist, and this way. Our guitarist and reharmonizer. I say reharmonizer, but the collective, they're all these guys are band leaders and composers and arrangers in their own rights, and that's kind of the concept of the collective. We pick a theme of a great jazz artist. We've done Monk, Mingus, and Weatherport so far, and each person arranges one or two tunes for the band from that repertoire in their own style. That's why that first tune you heard was a Monk tune called Green Chimneys, but I arranged that in 7, so I always bring something in an odd meter to the band, much to their chagrin. But the collective started out of all these guys are not only band leaders and composers and all that, great musicians in their own right. They're also instructors at the San Jose Jazz Summer Camp that I'm the director of. I have been for many years, but not last year and not this year due to the world at large and the situation. We've canceled the camp, but in an effort to promote the camp, one of the things I did initially was to go out into the schools and do clinics and do some performances for the kids and work with high school and junior high kids. And then we also did some performances in and around the community with parts of the faculty and as much of the faculty as we could. And this core of the faculty, we just had such a gas playing together, and we wanted to represent San Jose and the camp and spread word. So the collective was born, and since then we've been able to, tour to the other side of the world.
Well, I have a couple of questions in all of that. The last thing that I think you guys did before the pandemic, or just not too long before the pandemic, was you went to Asia. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. And we had support from San Jose Jazz to do that. It was actually our second trip to Asia, and through donations from supporters and San Jose Jazz, we were able to fund another trip to reach out and make stronger connections over there. Christos, I'm gonna get these fingers right this way.
Was a few more glasses of wine, and you'll get it.
Yeah.
Nice coffee.
It's really coffee, though. He was a big part of making the connections of that part of the world for us, and his experience in touring and facilitating those things really helped. Was a big part of the mechanics of it, but the music is, all the guys.
A couple of questions. This is the other thing, though. When I go to the website and you go to San Jose Jazz, SJZ Jazz, or sanjosejazz.org, right? Is the website. And I was reading about the New Works Festival, April 29th to May 8th. Mm-hmm. And are you guys going to be involved in all of that?
We're the old works.
Hey.
No, we're actually not going to be part of that. But that break room that Oscar has been a big part of developing. He can talk to that. We're talking with them about doing a. I mean, we can release this here. World debut, breaking news here. We're looking at doing a early June performance, streaming performance from the break room, where all that the new artists are performing for in this series, and we're going to be doing, because it's far too overdue. We're all going to be arranging tunes from Chick Corea's library.
Oh,
yeah,
and that's
a big one.
It's like what. It's like, which era or do you want to choose from? Do you want to go from Light as a Feather or Romantic Warrior, or
that's the thing. There is such depth. It's what, and that's kind of, if you listen to what, well, you can't listen to it all online. But if you were to catch a performance with us, there's not only a depth of difference in the arrangements from everybody, but then we're picking from different eras and different interests in these artists that bring different things to the plate. So it's pretty diverse performance when we play.
So I know John, and I don't really know the rest of you guys. So is it all right if I just have Oscar? Can you just go kind of like around the room, so to speak, and just have you guys say a little something about Wally?
He's the best boss I've ever had. I love my paychecks. I'm so thankful.
So be careful what you guys say.
No, a little bit about I was. Yeah, no, my name's Oscar. It's good to be on with you guys tonight. And Wally kind of alluded to it earlier, but we're really all good friends with each other and have been for a long, long time. And when Wally became director of the camp, I was really excited to see some of the changes he actually began to put into place, and putting together a staff-focused ensemble, which is here, which is what you see tonight, was one of the biggest triumphs, I think, and sort of stands as a kind of like a creative outlet for me, especially to be able to know that I can write some really crazy stuff and then show up to a rehearsal with these guys and be like, okay, let's play it. That's kind of the exciting part about being in an ensemble like this. But just really quickly about myself, sax player in the ensemble. I think I'm technically the youngest, and I'm the baby. But Jeff wouldn't know it. And what else about me? Born and raised San Jose. So I've lived in San Jose my whole life. I love it here, and I love being a part of this group. So I'll pass it on to. I guess.
Well,
I'm on the hot seat now.
Okay. I just realized I need to bring you into focus so people can see who you really are and see that you really look like the youngest kid.
I know.
Zoom in.
Let's. I know. Hey. we should run a straw poll. See who can guess my age. Who can get to the closest.
I thought you were like 20 when we first came on. I'm like, Jesus, how old are you?
If I told you, I'd have to kill you, man. So I can't let that information out.
So just so everybody that knows, because most people who tune in on Friday nights, Tom Paulitz are usually here with me, but he took a gig. He got a call for a session, and it said that he had to take the money, and I agreed. So, and like I said, I'm going to let you guys talk about music, because he's like the only guy that does it, that talks about music when I'm on, because I don't really know. So Sasha just said that she thinks you're 32.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
So we'll go to see if we were looking at the Partridge Family, who would John be?
Who was the mom again?
Okay, John, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. John, you didn't respond. I'm sorry.
Alice.
We go from the youngest to.
I guess I am the oldest, huh?
Just barely.
The wisest.
My COVID shots, that should say something. I don't know.
Right.
So, yes, Jeff?
I guess maybe we can just go to the other guys. Do you want to say
an insider?
All right. Well, I play the trumpet. I've been playing since 1965. when I was in the womb. And no, but yeah, and we have a great time with this band. You know, it's a bunch of knuckleheads, and you know, we just really like to play together, and we're all good friends, and yeah, it's really fun. It's great.
Well, I want to thank you, John, because you're the one that got this together for me. And thank you for changing the date and making this work, and everybody for being here. I appreciate that.
Well, you
obviously we're here on a Friday night because we have nothing else to do.
Okay.
All those gigs we're playing, man.
victims of the pandemic.
A year ago, when I first started doing these shows, and I'd call somebody, I would ask them, "Are you available?" And they would all say, "Yeah." But it does seem to be opening up a little bit, which we can talk about in a few minutes. But let's get to Hirsto.
Hi guys, so I'm Hristo Vichev, and I'm the guitarist in the group. And as everybody said, it's a true honor and privilege to play with these, first of all, friends, and then wonderful world-class musicians. And I just cannot wait to get back to some normalcy so we can take this to the next level, as we had picked up a great momentum before the entire pandemic started. But yeah, I'm from Bulgaria originally, spent most of my childhood in South America, Venezuela, and then got to the States when I was kind of in high school, first year in high school, and this has been home ever since.
So, how long have you been in San Jose?
Since, let's see, 1998.
Wow, that's not very long.
Well, actually, about 20 years. It's pretty much when Oscar was born, I moved to.
Yeah.
Oh, Saul.
Oh, hello. I'm Saul Sierra, and I'm originally from Mexico City. I came here to the States in '95. I went to Boston, stayed there for 4 years, and then came over here in '99, and I've been here since the summer of '99. And I think I started working with Wally and everybody else at the jazz camp around maybe 2012, 2011, something like that. Maybe, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I've been taking care of the Latin side of the camp, I think, and together with the bass the bass chair there, and that's kind of like the same thing that I'm doing with the band, right?
Keep it modest, yeah. And he runs the Mighty Latin Jazz Band of the camp, which is usually about, I don't know how big, so 40 kids or something.
40, yeah, like 40 kids playing. It's pretty challenging, but it's great. At the end of the camp, it's always really rewarding. Yeah.
I'd also want to congratulate Saul because on our, as I mentioned, we've made 2 trips to Asia, and on the first trip we were putting everything together, which means work visas and tickets, and we had to get our passports all together to put our tickets together and stuff. And there was some question about Saul's had Mexican citizenship, and we weren't sure it was going to work in all the countries the way we had it planned out. But since then, or just before then, he's got his citizenship here, and congratulations once again, man. It's a long trip, and it's happened.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Brian,
Oh,
are you there?
Checking.
No. No wonder you've been so quiet.
the quietest he's been.
Yeah, what?
Okay, so sometimes if the mic isn't working, sometimes you need to log out and log back in, and that makes it work. Sometimes. And then again, it could be that, is it plugged in? No, sorry.
Ew.
Yeah.
one of the verities of life. If it doesn't work, unplug it for a few minutes and plug it back in. It'll be fit.
Exactly.
Here's Ben.
Okay. Brian?
There you go.
Oh,
Can't hear him.
no.
Do you know sign language?
But he can hear us. That's the beauty.
No, right.
No.
No.
Are you using Chrome? Sometimes you are using Chrome. Last week, somebody had to restart their computer and then it worked.
Brad, just walk outside the house, lock it in, then unlock it.
Now send me the last 4 numbers of your social, and then.
So we'll just talk about Brian then.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Brad, just smile. Just go.
Well, so I want to ask, when did you start all of this? And you started it, Wally. Did you get to call the guys and get it together to do a performance or something, and then it just sort of held together from that?
Yeah, I mean, the camp has been going for well over 20 years, and I've been the director for, 7 or 8 years now. It was, just a quick story about that. It was falling, was slipping out of existence, I guess. We had people running from out of town, and it was losing interest and connection to the school. So luckily, when I took it over, I was able to, I said I wouldn't take it over unless I had some budget to bring the musicians into the schools and make the connection and let the kids see what the possibilities were. And then, but at that time, we were already doing at some point at the end of the first week of the camp, we do a faculty performance and bring a bunch of the kids up and play. And so we were already kind of doing throwing together a concert out of the faculty during camp. And then I decided to start to take that out into other venues beyond the camp and actually prior to the camp, so we could promote it. And we would just, we get off the stage and go, we got to keep doing this. This is fun because they're all great musicians. We got to keep playing. So I decided to initiate this as a separate arm of San Jose Jazz, yet connected to the education element, so that we can continue to promote both of those things, so they're both important. But also in a way to represent San Jose Jazz, and a way to represent musicians of Silicon Valley, because there are a lot of great musicians here. And as Cristo said, after a few years of doing it, the first performance we did was at San Jose Jazz Winterfest, and it was like a sold out event, and we were all and flying by the seat of our pants on that one, because we put it together in short notice, but it was great. And then it just kind of snowballed out of there, to the next time we performed at the Winterfest again was well attended event, and we had kind of this eclectic group personality already that was born out of you say it's San Jose Jazz, it's jazz, right? But jazz is we've got 6 guys here and 6 different musical personalities. They all fit under jazz, but we all if the similarities is that there's 12 pitches. there's so many ways to put those things together, and I think that's the beauty of this ensemble and the beauty of jazz. If you're doing things right, especially by the time you get as old as John and I, you should have some sort of a musical identity that is, somebody in the best possible world, somebody would go, that's Cristo's arrangement, that's a Cristo personality, that's Oscar or Brian or whatever, and I think that started to come together for all of us, but then in a way that creates the collective personality.
Well, I want to ask you, and you all have students, right, Brian? Oh, we're still waiting. Your mic still isn't working. Oh man! So I would try just logging out and logging back. I mean, restarting the computer. Maybe that actually resolved it for somebody last week.
Yeah, No, we cannot hear you, Ryan. No.
That won't work. Well, I wanted to ask you about your students and how well does the students or how are they receiving jazz? Are they really interested in jazz? Is it um, do they come up to you and say, "Well, can we play something that's kind of current or contemporary or anything like that?" How are they all responding to jazz? And or what's your feeling in with your students and all that stuff?
In the sense of the students at the camp.
With students of and as well for individual students, like what are they wanting to learn and hear about?
Well, I'll just say one thing that I want somebody else to talk because I don't want to take over this thing, but I just want to say that one of the things at the camp that I really enjoy the most is I love to get the combo. We all do big bands and combos and composition class and theory class and all history and all that stuff. But I love to get a combo of kids that are sitting on chairs looking at you like, I don't really want to be here, or I don't know why I'm here, or I'm not soloing. No, don't point at me. And then to do work with them kids for 2 weeks, and then see them smiling on stage, doing all that stuff in front of a big audience of all the 300 people of the families and everything, and having that success, and then seeing those kids come back the next year, like the fire has been lit. That's yeah. So we have a catchphrase called "Play the Possibilities" because they don't know what's possible with jazz, and we try to give them some of that, so they can see what's, what. It's not just reading those black dots in marching band. It's a much more you can do with it, right? I don't know. Somebody else, Cristo.
Can I just double check? Can you guys hear me now?
Hey.
All right. Cool.
What did you do magical over there to make it work?
Well, I was using loopback and
loopback. No.
I turned it off, and then I just now I'm just using the regular mic, so from my computer. So yeah.
Well, I was going to mention, Jeff, in my experience, both at camp and some of the private students I see, especially the younger kids, they don't even own a jazz record, but also I see it very often now. People can have a favorite group. Like when I was growing up, we all identified with certain artists and kind of, that was your culture. I listened to this group or this group. Even like in the rock scene or blues scene, you had your favorite people who you followed. You kind of knew their life story. You read about them. You identified with them, right? And I kind of sense it more and more with at least guitar students. You ask them what are their favorite artists, and they cannot even name an artist. I mean, they listen to whatever it's bombarding them from TV, internet, social media. So they do enjoy music, except I think they consume it in a whole different way that, at least to me, is very foreign.
They can tell you to stay listening.
Yeah. And so I think the challenge, at least for me as a teacher with that, is that to show somebody how to get better at an instrument, how the instrument is supposed to sound, the context of the instrument. I mean, all these things, it's learned by listening to the artist and kind of learning that by knowing every aspect about the sound of the artist too. And if you don't, I think, identify with that, I think it's a little bit harder to get to know those specific nuances of each instrument and how to really deal with that and make it your own, in my opinion. But it's just the times we live in,
Well, it's interesting that you're talking about specific artists, and you mentioned Chick Corea, Wally. How many of these kids actually have heard of some of those things? And John, do you say Freddie Hubbard or for sax, John Coltrane? I'm guessing a lot of sax players have heard of John Coltrane, a lot of students. But when you mention bands, how many of them think in terms of Weather Report or Yellow Jackets, that sort of thing, or specific artists? Go ahead, Oscar.
Well, I mean, it's funny you bring this up because I work in a lot of education programs throughout the year, and one of the programs I work for is here in East San Jose and the Allen Rock program that we have here. And just this last Thursday, we were having class, and they'd never heard the Yellow Jackets. You brought up the Yellow Jackets, and that's specifically what I brought up to them. for the selfish reason of showing Bob Minzer to my sax students there, but also to get them exposed to that style of music. And I did it through earlier. You asked like, how do these kids know jazz and things like that? They actually do. Their consuming habits they're very different than ours, right? Even when I was coming up, the record store was still a thing, but it wasn't quite what it was maybe during John's day and back. And I don't mean no, that was not a slight. I mean that in all sincerity, in that going to the record store, or maybe a better analog might be going to the video store, right? We all remember going to the video store and what that meant for us on a Friday or a Saturday night, right? And how that was an experience in and of itself. Kids don't the generation nowadays are not experiencing or consuming media that way. They're doing a lot of it through YouTube. They're doing a lot of it through Spotify. They're doing a lot of it through Twitch, and even TikTok now, right? And so what I'm getting at with the Yellow Jackets, and I'll bring that around, is I kind of showed them there's a fellow by the name of, his YouTube channel is called Insane in the Rain. And he does a bunch of music arrangements of Nintendo video game music in general. And I have a bunch of friends that are in a video game band called the Super Soul Bros. So they all know each other. So I found out about this guy, and he does some really cool, effectively like Yellow Jackets-esque treatments of this music. It's very jazz fusion, but he's going to Berkeley right now. Carlos is, and so he's also getting a lot of the sort of jazz harmonic language and stuff into his music. The point that I'm trying to make here is that kids are finding him, and they're coming to me in lessons and going like, "Have you heard of this guy? Like, you gotta check." I'm like, "Yeah, I know him. I don't know him personally, but I've heard of him and I listen to his music." And so the connection I made with my students in that particular class this last Thursday was like, I said, "Okay, listen to this song." And he did this tune called Azalea Town. It's from a Pokemon video game that came out in like 2001-ish. And then I said, "Okay, listen to this." They listened to the track. I said, "You like that?" They go, "Yeah, that was really good." I said, "Now listen to this." And I played for them the Yellow Jackets tune Spirit of the West. It's almost note for note, like the arrangement, the treatment, the use of the piano, the way Ferrante is playing the keys, to the melody, the melodic treatment that is in the melody, the way Bob Minzer is playing the track. And then it all of a sudden, like that, it clicked for them. They were like, whoa, I didn't see the connection there. I was like, these guys have been around since the 70s, right? And they've been playing music like this for a long, long time. And the connection I made for them there was, it's like, we are invariably, as musicians, as artists, you are always the expression of the people that you listen to and your influences. And so you can draw a line, a connection to all these people. And I think at the jazz camp in particular, when students come in, sometimes they don't know that they've been listening to jazz. They don't know that they like jazz. But in our role as educators there at the camp, we draw those connections for them. We show them that actually, hey, you like this? Check it out. That's connected to this, and that's connected to this. And all of a sudden their interest is recruited. And when you can get them interested in something like that, because, hey, this thing I'm listening to actually ends up being something that's jazz influenced, now the possibilities, to Wally's point, begin to open up for them, and they begin to see themselves as a participant in the genre, not just a consumer of it. So
I want to say one thing. I was playing a gig one time when we were doing Mac the Knife or something silly.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid comes up and says, "That's from McDonald's, right?" I understand that was actually a jazz tune. I mean, that's like a real jazz tune, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This kid's interpretation of this that McDonald's commercial was like, wow, that's actually a jazz tune. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, and in my generation, it was the Chips Ahoy. They had co-opted "Sing Sing Sing," and so it was like, that's the Chips Ahoy song. It's like, no, it's Benny Goodman, "Sing Sing Sing." It's a whole different, but it connects with us, right? And I can tell you, like, I work with a lot of middle school students. For them, if they know that what they're doing and what they're listening to has connections to genres like jazz fusion or straight ahead jazz or big band jazz, all you have to do is just make those one or two connections for them, and then you turn them into a jazz listener and a connoisseur, and someone who's really excited about playing jazz as well. So, yeah.
Brian.
Yes.
would you like to say something since you've been sitting there so quiet this whole time?
The microphone works now.
Yep.
I know.
You got the rest of the hour, man. Come on.
Yeah, well, I teach a lot of students as well too. Again, wanted to introduce myself. I'm Joey DiFrancesco, and this is my wonderful water heater. No, just kidding. I play organ. I teach piano over at the jazz camp, and I'm very thankful for Wally for creating the opportunity for all of us to play. It's just a treat to play with all of these guys here. And to teach the kids at the camp is a real treat too. You know, every year, I really look forward to it. It's just a nice way to, as Oscar said, to introduce kids that they know that they love music, but they don't necessarily know that they love, or they love music, they love going and playing in band. But whatever their experiences are, you know, I think that as educators and as performers, we can kind of shape their ears and tell them, hey, this is something, you know, that is cool. And if they're usually, once you explain what's going on or you tell them, give a little bit of direction, they immediately are interested in it because it's something that they can actually do. And I think that's a really cool thing. As Wally says, you know, all these kids that are in the combo are in the camp, they end up joining a combo and they play in a small group opportunity and a big group opportunity, and they're just able to perform like a real jazz musician. And, you know, I think that by combining all the elements, you know, listening, playing, theory, it eventually, it creates like kids that are ultimately jazz fans and connoisseurs. And yeah, I do find that it's been different the last, I mean, I used to have, I mean, one of my favorite, like when I was 16, the first place that I went to was Tower Records on Bascom Avenue. I mean, that was, I said, I'm going to drive there by myself and like, you know, buy a CD or Streetlight Records. I mean, and then, you know, honestly, I pretty much digitized everything and gave those away because they were just taking up so much room. But, you know, I think that it's music, you know, things always evolve, and it's just a matter of whether you want to evolve with them or kind of stick to what only you know. But I think that's the great thing about it, is that teaching kids and does allow you to gain another perspective on what is going on in today's society. You know, because you tend to get locked in, I feel like, if you don't have like another opinion or perspective.
Well, you know, there's been a lot of talk over the years amongst musicians about how music has gotten dumbed down, and with music education going out of schools, and you know, losing some of, like when I was a kid, the vocal music was a must all the way through middle school, right? It was just part of the curriculum, and now there isn't any. And so people aren't growing up with the experience and knowledge of music the way they used to. So it's easier to play, like you'll listen to a top 40 song and you go, ugh, what? You know, the knowledge of music isn't there. So what it sounds like from you guys, you're actually able to help educate people and get knowledge of music. And I would hope that it feels like it's growing some from your point of view, all of you guys with your students. How about you, John? What are you experiencing with your trumpet player friends?
Well, I kind of feel like that they, you know, I make sure that I hip them to, you know, like my favorite players, you know, Tom Harrell, Freddie Hubbard, you know, Lee Morgan, and, you know, a bunch of cats, Dizzy Gillespie. But also, you know, I like to stress the history of jazz with them too, you know, from the aspect of trumpet players, because, you know, that's my focus, trumpet. And it's kind of cool, you know, because they, you know, there's certain things they like, there's certain things they don't like. And what's kind of nice is the ones who are more serious about jazz, I have them come on my gigs when there were gigs, right? And I'd have them come sit in with me, and it was so cool to listen to them, you know, play solos and actually bring out some of the repertoire that we had worked on. I mean, solo repertoire, meaning that, like we would play like a Freddie Hubbard tune, and then all of a sudden they would rip off a Freddie Hubbard lick, you know. And, prior to this, prior to their education, in music, I mean, they had no access to it, right? Because there was nothing to inspire them to go and see it. Because in schools, they don't really teach anything about jazz. Maybe every once in a while you'll find a music teacher who will, try to spread the word. I'm talking about like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th graders, right? And part of our job is to introduce them to new things, as members of the jazz camp. And one of the coolest things for me is seeing certain kids get excited about jazz during the camp, and 10 years later you see them like playing gigs. They're playing with Justin Timberlake, or one guy, he won third place in a national jazz trumpet competition, and he was one of the jazz camp members. His name is Sean. He's a terrific trumpet player, and it's so exciting to see where these kids go. I saw a alto saxophone. Oscar, you know who this is. He goes to North Texas State now. Plays in 1 o'clock.
Howard Dietz?
Yeah, I watched a concert with Sean Jones as a guest soloist, and Howard Dietz was playing jazz. He was playing solos, and he was kicking ass. It was it was just the coolest thing to watch. Yeah, so I don't know. For me, I just think that what we're doing is a great thing. I really do, and it's so much fun to watch the fruits of our labor really, blossom. I don't know. I kind of did that. That's my
opinion. Saul, tell me about your experience, and also growing up in Mexico City, and how accessible jazz was to you there.
Well, it wasn't that accessible then. It was more, and I was more into the rock scene when I was there. Jazz, I mean, you could hear it. There were a couple of places. I mean, for a big city like that, to have just a couple of places, it was almost not existent, right? But if you went looking for it, you could find it, but it wasn't really that accessible. Nowadays, it's really accessible. There's a lot of jazz going on in Mexico City. There's a lot of very good players, and I think it has grown a lot in the last 30 years, but it really a lot. It's like there's a jazz scene in Mexico City. It wasn't like that before. So I grew up more listening more to rock and to Latin music, at home, and I also listened to a lot of R&B, and it wasn't until I got here and I went to school in Boston when I really got into jazz and started listening to more and start learning about the artists and trying to learn the repertoire. So it was challenging but interesting too. Yeah.
So the one thing that has been coming up for me as you guys are talking and talking about Tower Records, and the experience of new music for me was, let's say I would buy a Chick Corea, a Return Forever album, for example, and I would look and I would see, oh, there's Lenny White, there's Stanley Clarke. Then I would go to all the other albums and try to find their names on things, and stand and read those notes, and maybe listen to it. There was a time when you could listen to things and or buy the record and go home, and the experience of getting the new music home and opening it up and listening to it and only just listening to that record and then taking the names down and reading the liner notes, that experience has so changed. Now for kids, they don't get to explore music the same way we did then, and it's not the same kind of experience, and it seems to be sometimes shorter for them. Like they'll flip through iTunes and and how can you find out who's playing on the records? Not all the time they offer liner notes, so you don't know.
Well,
And
Jeff, I'm totally with you. That was one of my experiences, like that I love opening up the liner notes and seeing who's on it, and you know,
Oh, yeah.
it was like, and a friend of mine actually said that he started doing this, and he would listen to one. Now, he would listen to one album a week uninterrupted. And I don't even know now with, Aristo and I have young children, but it's even hard to get that time, to do that. But I mean, I just think that it's just the way of the world now. Everybody, that I see watching TV has a computer or an iPhone or another device talking with them. It's like, you can't, very rarely are people just doing one thing, they're like,
I like
talking going on the computer. It's like,
I was just going to say that I like Jeff's point because I think the process has been inverted. Certainly has for me. I would know those names that I wanted to seek out, and like I remember there was a downtown San Jose dedicated record collector, used record store. I could go with $20 in my pocket and come out with 10 albums, because they were used, and I would just be like looking for drummers and looking on the backs and looking for all this stuff, and coming out now. For me, it's interesting because I'll know what I want to listen to. I know some artists and stuff, but I'm always looking for new stuff. And with the streaming services, I can I have a few playlists that I'll listen to that are stylistically interesting to me. And or on Apple Music they'll go, the things we picked for you, new music, because they know they know everything you're doing, they know all that you've listened to, and I'll hit fast forward through or skip over a lot of stuff, but then I'm hear a lot of stuff. I'm like, oh, check it out. Who are these people? Then the process is inverted. I'm given the music first. Now I got to go to Google, find that artist, find out if I can find out who the people are on them, and then explore other ways, other music they've made, So I do that actively every week, and I just want to say with my students too. There's two things that I do with the more advanced students, but I do it regularly. We'll get a minute or two. Like, if I have a minute and a half left at a student, 10, I'll go, we got a minute and a half. Tell me a joke. If it's an older student, I'm like, what's the best new music you've heard today? Arctic Monkeys. I haven't listened to the Arctic Monkeys. I will go check them out, and a lot of times I'll hear stuff that's interesting to me. And the other thing I'll do with the older students is I'll give them every week. I do this. I give them the name of a drummer from 100 plus years of history, and say, Google them. Tell me something, who they've played with, what you observe about their playing style, watch some videos and stuff. And often I'm pretty surprised that they're, pretty adept at gleaning something out. Other times I'm hearing the first 3 sentences from Wikipedia. Other times I had one student come back a couple weeks ago, and I had given him Elvin Jones, and I said, well, what do you know about Elvin Jones? Well, he played with Duke Ellington. Maybe their paths crossed at some point, but that's not the main point here. So it's hit and miss, but you got to keep them looking.
Right. If I want to find out, if I hear a piece of music and I want to know who the drummer is, the only way I really know how to, at my age, my 15-year-old could navigate iPhones and all of the stuff really easy, but me, if I want to know who plays on something, I have to resort to Wikipedia, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll list the discography and the personnel, but not always. So it's more of a challenge for me to try to find artists or musicians and who plays on what, but I think the kids actually find it out much easier than I do.
Well, I just want to chime in on that because for me, I'm kind of in that transitional period kind of a thing where I do
You're
remember.
middle-aged? Are you middle-aged?
No, for me, I vaguely remember having my dad used to listen to like in the house all the time was Frank Sinatra, Harry Belafonte, a lot of Rat Pack stuff, and Basie at Sands. Like there was like a lot of that stuff was going on in my house, and there were records. We had an actual record player, but we also got a CD player, and then everything like went that way, right? But one of the things I still have my LPs is that you had liner notes with a ton of that information, and you could learn things about the studio recording, the process that they went through, the dates that it was all recorded. All that stuff was there. It was an encyclopedic entry, right? That has shifted, right? Then it got downsized because then now you have these little CD sized things, these inserts, and then eventually those got gutted for then the thin ones, and then now everything is streamed. So I think what's happened is that it shifted, and that to your point, Jeff, like that information is not as readily available to us. We got to go and dig for it. But I can tell you right now, the kids are so quick at that stuff. They find out information. They're like, yeah, I found this and this and this, and YouTube videos like what we're broadcasting on right now. Sometimes now they're getting better about indicating which personnel is on the record and things like that. And a lot of my students especially are listening to everything that they do over YouTube. So I just feel like the funds of knowledge where the kids are kind of going and jumping into to get that information, the wells for that knowledge rather, that is all, it's shifted and it's not where we would expect, but the kids are finding out that information. I know because when I ask them to go research something, they come back at me with like, oh, he was with so-and-so and they played with this person. And like, where'd you find this stuff? And, I want to know because I want to have access to that, so, but to your point, Wikipedia is truly a godsend in that regard, because not only will they include a full discography, but then they'll link to things within there if someone's curated it well. And that is, I think in a lot of ways, it's still kind of in its infancy in some regards, but on some of the more popular, the more well-known albums, man, they'll give you like, you take something like Giant Steps, right? Or, Love Supreme, and calling out sax albums now, but man, they've got everything down to a T, even like, the studio spot and the square footage and stuff like that. It's like, what the heck, but that's kind of the level of detail. So as it gets wider, and some of the more obscure things that we find that get then brought up again up into the surface, I think the Wikipedia will catch up for that some of that stuff as well.
So I keep thinking about when I would open up the liner notes, and the experience for me was what really would get me to play drums was the picture of the guy's drums, right? Like I'd look and like, damn, that's cool, man. That's really cool. And all I could think about was getting drums that would look like that, And so that experience that I remember as a kid just I just don't see the kids getting the same experience from it today, looking on a screen. And by the way, a guy asked me the other day, called me, he goes, I'm streaming things and I want to make sure it goes stereo. And I said, why? And he said, well, because it sounds better. And I said, everybody's watching it on a device. And he goes, no. And I said, look, I watch everything on my iPad in my bed. And if it's in stereo, I'm not going to really be able to tell unless I have headphones on, right? So he goes, yeah, I guess. But my point is, everybody's experience now is so different based on everybody's got a phone that they're listening to it on, and they're watching on computers or iPad. How many people sit and listen to music in front of a really nice sounding stereo and really listen to the complexity of the music the way I used to as a kid?
Well, how many people go out to see concerts? I mean, like when I was growing up, I go to Keystone Corner. I saw Freddie Hubbard, Art Farmer, Sonny Stitt, all these cats, Art Blakey, Horace Silver, all these guys, right? It's like people need to go see live music. You can listen to all this digital stuff all you want, but if you really want to know what it feels like to be and you have to be in front of that music, I mean, or you have to be playing with them, and it's really a trip because that whole aspect of it is kind of, it's being lost to me. I mean, I used to love to go watch Freddie Hubbard. I would sit in the front row. He could empty a spit valve in my drink. That's how close I was to it.
That would make the drink taste good.
Yeah, and I would go up and I would talk to these guys afterwards, right? And you get to know them, and you realize, even though they're like these immortal, incredibly talented people, they're just like people, just like everyone else. But the thing is the people of today, they can't go where we went, and we can't go where they're going, because nobody lives forever. But the thing is, that's heavy for me, is people not going out and seeing enough live music. I learned so much from that. I mean, I can't tell you. I go up to Art Farmer and talk to Art Farmer. Tom Harrell. All these guys. I would go up and talk to everybody. And sometimes you forge a relationship, sometimes you don't. But the actual the essence of being in the presence of actual greatness is one of the most incredible experiences anybody can have, I think.
Well, you know what just occurred to me? You guys are that for a lot of the kids now in your area, especially. You guys are the guys that are playing that and giving those kids that experience, because a lot of the people that we used to look up to aren't coming around and playing anymore much. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We used to be able to go, and this makes me think of something that I would like each one of you. Tom asked this question of like the Yellow Jackets guys when we had them on. If there was somebody that you could play with right now, like dead or alive, if there was one person that you could play with, who would it be that would just make you feel like, oh, I can die now? It's cool.
Yeah.
But dead or alive? Wow, that's big.
Yeah, it's like, who would it be that you could play with that would just have been or be the experience that would just be, oh shit.
For me, definitely, it would be Joshua Redmond. I think I would love to play with him. I think he's for me. I love that he has the traditional side. He can play standards and stuff like that, but then he has this whole other side of originals, and I feel like his sound and his ideas are so soulful, but obviously rooted in the tradition of bebop and everything like that. And yeah, he would be my number one. Like, if I could just pick one, and that would be a dream come true. Joshua Redmond would be mine.
And
I think I love harmony so much, so definitely have to be more of a experience with another harmonic instrument. So I think, if possible, I would keep Jared. That would be also my last gig, because he'll probably kill me.
Yeah.
But Kid is like, just his sense of that dimension that he can take music into, that very few people can, to me at least. It's something that definitely has that magical.
I want to interject one thing before the rest of you guys answer. I was listening to a song in my car one time, and all three of my kids were in there, and it was a Keith Jarrett song, Your Song, right?
Oh,
come on! I started crying, and my kids like, "What the, Dad? What the hell?" They were like,
I'll just mention a quick story too after you finish one, because this is funny. When I started, I got into jazz from heavy metal music, so my switch was rather, sharp, to be honest. And that happened in college, so I had no idea of the language of jazz and history. It was more of a thing that happened by chance when I first started getting to learn the music. And so, of course, the first few months were like all the catching up, where all my teachers were telling me, you have to listen to all these records and all these artists just to get an idea as to, the EDM, the sensibility of that music, because I was coming from such a different place. And so on the harmonic side, I was turning to Keith Jarrett. So I bought a lot of CDs, that's again going back to Tower Records. And I would pretty much listen in my car when I would drive around. I would just put all those records, just try to listen as much. And every time Kid Jerry was playing, I honestly thought my car had a mechanical problem because you hear that. I never imagined that somebody would, on a professional recording album release, would leave a extraneous noise. Of course, everything is like has to be perfectly clear, and that take would have to go to trash if the noise was there. So I would never even imagine that somebody in this art form that was allowed to be done. So I honestly thought it cannot be the record. That's an amazing recording. It's like some like grinding noise. So I thought something's wrong with the car, and that continued for months until one day on a winter break, I took the CDs home, I put my headphones, and as I was listening to Kid Jerry, I heard the same grinding noise. I was like, wow. So initially, man, I was so like off by that. I was like, man, how can somebody do that? And now, that's my favorite sound. That's the human element. The music is breathing through him. That connection. I don't think Jared would be the same if that wasn't the case. I think it's
Oh, Wally, how about you?
Well, yeah. Well, I've had time to think about it, but there's a lot. But I think as a drummer, I have to think about bass players, right? You know, I want to connect up with, and for me, I think that guy is Dave Holland. Just because, I mean, he's been around for so long. I mean, I'm influenced by a lot of fusion music. He was there at the birth of fusion, right? Playing electric bass with Miles and such, and then his odd metered music, and it's just his concept and time, and so that would be a bucket list jam for me.
Yeah. Saul?
I think it would have to be Dizzy Gillespie.
Oh.
You know, because he always tried to put together the two different worlds, the worlds of Latin jazz and the straight ahead jazz, and he was always at the lead in that scene. So yeah, I think I would have loved to have been able to play with Dizzy.
Yeah. Oscar?
Oh man, this is kind of a cheating answer, but I would say it was in my mind. It's a tie between Oscar Peterson, just because I've always loved his piano playing, and some of my most favorite albums have been when he plays the Cole Porter songbook and then the Gershwin songbook. Those are some of my favorite go-to listening. And then it's kind of a tie between that and this is kind of a cheating answer, but the Count Basie Jazz Orchestra, just to be able to play in that ensemble, to be surrounded by such amazing talent, Frank Foster, Frank West, Count Basie, just to be surrounded by. That to me is like the epitome, the pinnacle of just amazing big band swing. And I cut my teeth a lot in the big band circuit here in the San Jose area. And so for me, that is my heart and soul is in Basie era style big band sound for sure.
Butch Miles. I mean, I loved how he played in that band. Right?
Yeah.
Everyone cut so I can't Thad Jones it goes on, and then listening to some of the stuff now I'm going on a tangent, but listening to the Kansas City 7 and the Kansas City 6 with the Count Basie, the smaller orchestra, the small group type stuff where he took just a handful of the guys and did his own thing. Even that was really killing, and some of the flute work that Frank Foster would do, Frank West too, is those guys are and their saxophone sound, there's that tenor style of playing from that era that is sort of it hasn't been replicated since. And there was something about the way that they approached the music and the way that they played that I think has sort of been lost in the modern era. But I don't think that it's gone. I just think that it's not highlighted as often with some of the new players that come out. So, but
I've been thinking this whole time, you look like you should be a radio host with your microphone. You've got all the right background, I mean, you sure you don't do sports? You don't do any sports games?
No, I've learned from watching all the young streamers. So they it's like they have whole YouTube channels telling you how to do it. Set the lights here and then do this and create interest.
Look at the backlit monitor over there, man. That's
What?
It's a functioning monitor. So
I was more observant on the fine glass with vino. That's very highlighted.
man, it's Friday.
Yeah, John's got one too. So, John, what's your who would it be for you?
Is that
John?
for John?
John.
John.
Who would it be for me?
Yeah.
I used to think that it would be Art Blakey or Horace Silver because that's, as far as the jazz heroes, they all played with those cats, But I really don't know because I love so many different musicians, and some of them I've gotten to play with already, and I don't know, maybe Bill Evans. I would love to play with Bill Evans. His music is beautiful, and a vocalist. Johnny Hartman, I would have loved to play with Johnny Hartman. Because what a singer, what a beautiful voice he had, And I thought of another thing that came to my mind was to be part of Louis Armstrong's band when he had, the Hot Seven or take the place of Joe King Oliver. Because jazz isn't about just fusion or just straight ahead or this and that. It's like the whole spectrum of jazz. I mean, I loved all of it. I still do. Avant-garde jazz. I would love to play with Ornette Coleman. I would love to play the Art Ensemble of Chicago. I wish I could have played with all those kind of cats. And some of them, yeah, maybe I did. But at the same time, it's like it's just never ending because I love all that music. There hardly isn't an aspect of jazz that I just don't care for. And here's another thing too. This may sound kind of crazy to you.
No, never.
I would love to have played with Joe Jackson, the pianist.
That's crazy.
And and Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
I would love to have played with I don't know. I'm just blathering. But the idea is
Wine.
I would just like to have a gig.
What was that, Wally?
I would just like to have a gig.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
I can't
right.
tell you what it was like for me to be a part of the band backing up Stanley Clarke. He was one of my heroes. He wrote one of the best tunes my favorite tunes is called Why Wait, And I got to play with Stanley Clarke and play that tune. And I asked him, I said, Stanley, can I have the chart? Because I would like to record this. He says, oh, yeah, sure. Okay. So he gave me the chart, Wow. It's like a presence of greatness. You can't, I don't know. You can't match that. I don't know what to say, To me, I could die tomorrow, which I'm not going to.
Don't.
I'd be I'd be one of the happiest people on this planet. Seriously, I just and also I wish I could play with Snarky Puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the keyboard player, that thing that he was a lingus. Holy crap! Incredible. I would love to be just sitting there in the audience, just going, Wow, I don't know, man. Music is so.
One thing that I would like to hear. I would like to hear a big band. When Bill Evans takes a solo and he gets into his chordal voicings into his solo and he starts doing all those voices, I would like to hear one of his solos transcribed out and have a big band play it.
There you go. Get on that, Oscar.
I'm not the wizard when it comes to that stuff. That's Fristo's domain.
Oh, I'm a guitar player. I cannot write music.
He's a master, man. He's a master blaster.
Do you think it would sound cool to have that all voiced out in a big band horn section?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I've seen some stuff done with like Joe Henderson charts like that. Joe Henderson, he had a big band for a while too, but but yeah, I don't see why not. Let's get on it.
Yeah.
There is an arrangement by Bob Minster of Cooking at the Continental, and he harmonized all of Horace Silver's solo on the original recording, and he harmonized it for the whole big band. It sounds great.
Yeah,
really nice. Yeah.
I'm making a note of that.
So Jeff, who would you want to play with, man? What would be your dream come true thing?
Well, way back when, I would have to say that if I had to play with anybody and I only got to choose one guy, it would be Al Jarreau. I would like to play behind Al Jarreau.
Wow.
And that would just be one guy. But in terms of bass players, there's just so many that I would like to try. There's nobody that jumps out because there's just so many. But Al Jarreau would have been, because of his music and the crossover between pop and funk and jazz and soul, it just sort of fit. And then maybe Stevie Wonder.
No.
Maybe
Stevie Wonder.
Maybe Circus Vargas Band.
Circus Vargas Band. I would like to. I'd like to maybe give that a try again.
Eric Collitter, myself, Fazman. All the cats.
Oh.
We had good people playing in there. Yeah, it was good folks. Yeah, sure.
I lost my train of thought. Oh, so what do you have a plan of, because things are sort of opening back up. I'm hearing stories of little. I know, John, you did something at a restaurant that was outdoors. There are some places starting to have live music in different places. Is there anything coming up for you guys that you're going to be able to do or have planned that people can start looking forward to, or you guys can look forward to getting back together?
Yeah, well, I mentioned that earlier we all do arrangements when we do a new theme and a new year, and this year we're going to do Chicoria because he deserves the respect, and rest in peace. He gave us a lot of great music, and so we're going to do arrangements of it, and we're still the date is yet to be nailed down, but we're going to do a streaming show early June, it looks like, and I'm looking forward to that. Just to get into the arrangement mode again, and have it's funny because I've composed a lot of music over this last year in bits and pieces and 1 minute segments because I'll post them online or whatever. But because I have found it hard to have the motivation to complete a whole composition or arrangement, because for what? Then what do I do with it? There's no place to go play it. And so now to have this kind of this couple of months away goal in sight, it's kind of exciting to be able to think about conceptualizing of music and have these guys breathe life into it and make it better than what I had in my head.
I based on the fun we were having before we went live, which was the best part of the show for me. I would like to hang out with you guys because you were so much fun.
But now,
well, we do have a good time together. I mean, when we we'll go and play a gig, and it's just, or like when we're in, what was it, Taiwan, and we went to the coffee shops, or we did this and this. We hung out. We had a great time. So good laughs, good times. Good music.
The music is always good, but the times that are the memories when you get old like me and you start looking back. This is for Oscar because he's like the kid, right? So, the times looking back, it was the music, but it was more the hang in between, before the show, after the show, off. Those kinds of things. And when you can hang out with guys that you really like, that's the memories that we take home more so than, the good music is good, but man, I miss my buddies.
Yeah, absolutely.
you can go on the road and have it like, we got to be in this city this day, and transfer, trains and planes and ferries and everything else, and then come back and still like each other. That's all right.
Questionable.
Yeah. I was confused, but I still like you.
Hey, well, did anybody have smelly feet when they take off their shoes? You have to make them keep their shoes on.
I don't think so.
We had that. John and I had that once.
No, but I'll tell you what, if there's during any sort of like health outbreak crisis, I want Hristo on my team for sure. But let me tell you, if you get infected, he'll toss you to the flames just as soon as
This is taken in this, man. This is a serious business.
we had to protect the band.
Yeah, otherwise another pandemic,
there's a story in there, but no, I agree, man. It's the
bus driver's fault.
Yeah, well, dude, okay, that I think may have tripped it out, may have added to the. I got sick in between when we were going between Hong Kong and Beijing. I had gotten strep throat, and Hristo, being as resourceful as he is, the dude had like Soviet era tablets from former USSR antibiotics, as he says, antibiotics. And so what I loved about it was, I mean, these things are great, man. They said, use in case of radiation exposure, but it was fantastic. What I really loved about it was Hristo was super helpful, but the other part of it, the joke in there is that, I'm like in bed, like curled up in the fetal position while all these guys were having fun in Beijing.
Eating.
No, well, I didn't understand what I had quite yet until it's not to get into too many details, but I've had strep before and I knew the symptoms and I was like, oh, this feels like strep. I hope it's not. And then sure enough, it was. So I got antibiotics from Hristo, but it's also highly contagious. As you all know, strep is very contagious if you are in close quarters with people. And so I was kind of groggy, and then I half opened my eyes and I see Hristo. We were bunking together. He's like in a mask, full mask. He might as well have been in the hazmat suit, dragging his bed out of the bedroom. And I'm just going like, oh my God, I'm not long for this earth, am I?
As a backpack.
Yeah, exactly right. Oh my God. So, Hristo was a lifesaver on that trip, and it's those little things like that little interactions that we all had with each other throughout trips, and in my time playing with the ensemble. That definitely, I agree. It's all about, we say amongst ourselves, it's all about the hang, for sure. So for any non-musicians, it's always, they're listening in, it was always about the hang, for sure.
I had a bass player on. I interviewed. His name was Mel Brown. He lived in LA for a while. And one of the things that somebody said to him when he first moved to LA, he said, you've got to have your hang chops together. If you want to work in this town, you got to have your hang chops together. And I so get what that means now. But, 40 years ago, I wouldn't have understood. But I do now.
Yeah, you don't want to play music with people you don't like to be around. Yeah, I think it's like having a conversation. I mean, jazz is this huge conversation, and if you have someone that you don't enjoy being around, it's like no matter how good they are or how well they can play, you just rather play with somebody that you enjoy being around. So yeah, I totally agree.
So it gives new meaning. If somebody asks them how they play, well, he's a really nice guy. What do you think?
I like him.
Cheers.
Yeah, I had this gig with this guy. How did he sound? Like, he was a really nice guy.
Oscar.
Yes.
What are you drinking? What are you drinking?
Oh, it's just a Cab Sauv. I decided to open up earlier today.
Cab Sauv.
Oh,
The
okay.
Cab.
Don't waste
It's nothing fancy, man.
I'm drinking a Sangiovese.
Well, cheers, my friend. We'll need to go tasting soon.
Oh man, I can't wait.
Noon or earlier than.
So, the only thing that none of us had that John had was his wife walking back and forth behind him.
And I love it.
Susan, tell Susan hello for us.
Hi, Susan.
Hey, honey,
Hi, Susan.
honey, come over.
Uh-oh. She's just become an extra on this show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she won't get paid for this.
Guys,
I've been listening. I've been enjoying. But you know me, I like being in the background. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hey.
Really fun to hear.
Yeah, it's fun listening to all these guys talk and tell stuff. I want to hear some stories. What of the last trip you had to Asia? I want some juicy stories. Other than the sick story with the Russian antibiotics, in a hazmat suit, that was pretty good, But do you have any? Was there any wild stories there, or the previous trip? Is there anything that?
I remember one. We were very hungry after a long flight. I think it was in Beijing, and of course, the language barrier is tremendous.
Oh, that's good.
And so everybody's looking for a restaurant. We don't know what to order. Something's not foreign. And finally, there was this one place that looked and smelled, really nicely. And then we sat down thinking it's going to be some kind of barbecue type. It was like one of those like pot places, right? Where you cook everything under the table.
In the mall, yeah.
And then it turned out to be only specializing in frogs.
Yeah. Well, no, but hold on, Risa, you jumped to the punchline too soon, man. So we sit down, right? We're all sitting down. We're like, oh, this is gonna be great. Everyone's hungry, and I'm lead translator with Google Translate, which has to go through a firewall while you're in China. So we're like, everything's super slow. We're trying to translate. Risa and I are trying to communicate with our waitress, and so the thing kept saying like frog, and I'm like, that can't be. It's gonna be some bad translation. And then so like I turned to Riso, I was like, I think this is bullfrog, man. He's like, no, well maybe. He's like, and then finally like she goes away. She like we put an order, and we were able to, using gestures and broken pointing and stuff like that. She goes away, and then she comes back, and then she's like, okay, the food's coming. And then at that point I had like gone through several like iterations of translation. Like, is it bullfrog? Is it? And it kept coming back that way. And I was like, I asked her, is it frog? And I put in the translation, and she's like, she responded back. She's like, yes, the meat is very succulent and juicy. You will like it. And then she leaves. And then but these guys were like drinking and having fun. I'm like, I'm already on my first round of antibiotics at that point. And then I turn to these guys, they go like, guys, I think we may have just ordered bullfrog. I hope you guys are okay with that.
A lot of it.
But this is the cool thing, like not in a joking manner. What I love about touring with guys like this is that they were like, yeah, let's eat it. Let's try it out rather than run away from it, And so we're eating bullfrog, and I had about 3 bites, and I was like, yeah, I tried it. I can say I did it, and it was actually tasty, and it does taste like chicken.
Oscar, the best part was, go ahead, Walter, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, he was like, we're down to try things. Saul and I are brothers of the chicken foot.
There you go.
You eat chicken feet?
He was John. I think.
Taiwan.
oh yeah, I'm
They're
down.
delicious.
I love
You actually eat gnaw on the chicken feet?
Well, not for too long, but we had to try it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Oscar, remember that same restaurant with the frogs? Then once they delivered the food, they were asking about the sauces, how spicy you wanted them. So
Yeah.
so like out, hot, and then magma.
Magma. That's right, magma.
I just remember walking out of the restaurant, and I wanted to take a picture just of the restaurant, and then I see the logo, and the logo of the place was this huge bullfrog.
Yeah.
Senior frogs.
Senior frog.
Well, we had the hot reminds me because we had a great late night experience. It was like Anthony Bourdain experience. We did it twice in Taiwan. When we got done in the jazz club, we asked the where can we go eat now? And they're about 2 blocks away. There was this guy that opens at 1 o'clock in the morning, I guess, right? And he and it's just like there's a little hole in the wall with like 3 seats and 2 seats on the counter, and then kind of tables in the street. and he made beef noodle soup. And I was like, how late does he stay open? Till there's no more, right?
Yeah.
So so we're sitting in the middle of the street in the middle of the night, like, I don't know what it was, close to 2 a.m, drinking beers and having this awesome beef noodle soup. But Saul ordered the hot version.
Yeah. Come on, man! It's hot, man. Come on, man.
And it wasn't a soup. It was like a dry or just the noodles, and it was so hot. So I asked him if he could put some of the soup of the liquid, to make it less hot, because I couldn't finish it. So he said, yeah, and he just put more of the soup. But it was great.
It was great. What a great experience that was, though. Right in the middle of the night, great weather.
Yeah.
And the soup was just kick ass. It was really great. Really great.
Yeah.
And then also Brian in the night markets, man. Brian was like funny that. What was the name of that chicken?
You gotta be careful how you say it, right?
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, I think that was almost as much fun as obviously the playing was amazing, but I mean, as you can tell, these experiences are just so much fun with these guys.
Yeah. I figured out a way that I can travel with you.
Podcast.
You need a sound guy, right?
Oh, yeah, we do, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all I do now.
There you go.
There you
Talk
go.
to our manager, Wally, here.
We'll hook it up. Don't worry, man. We got it.
And
I've been living so many experiences. Remember when Beijing, we got there, we were staying in bed and breakfasts, and we were on the 6th floor. Is that what it was? Up
or something. Will you drop your phone?
Yeah.
Oh, your phone.
Oh,
when you drop the phone.
What floor was that on?
We were on 6. We were on the 6th floor.
On the 6th floor. So we get there, and I'm like, there's a little balcony. I'm like, oh, look at this view. It's nighttime view of Beijing. And I get my iPhone out, and there's little screen and windows on the patio. So I put it up here against the screen to hold it steady and take a picture of this side of the horizon. And I go to the next window to do it, and I'm going to put it up against the screen, and there's no screen there. So I just threw my iPhone out the 6th floor window.
Oh, my God.
I'm like, huh?
It was 26.
26, yeah. No, so I race out of the place like in my socks, and there's this little elevator that's like 2 people big, and you go down. And there's a mom, and it stops on the floor, and there's a mom and a baby, and I'm like, come on, I get down there. I race out there, and I run around the side of the building and over into where I think it went. It could have hit a person and killed them, or hit a car or whatever. And I get to about where it is, and there was sidewalk. And interestingly, they have sidewalk, and then there's a little paved area that's for bicycles.
Yeah.
And then there's a little row of bushes, and then there's a street for cars. And I look over in the bushes, and I see a light in the bushes.
Yeah.
And I reach out down in there and pull it out. My cell phone is fine. No problem. It hit the bushes, is killed, and softened its blow, and it went down with just a little mud on it.
That actually, another thing that I personally got lucky on that particular trip in Beijing again was we had gotten to the club early, and we were taking these taxis. I forget what they were called, Risto.
Didi.
The Didi. Their equivalent, the Chinese equivalent of Uber. And so we get over to the club, which is about, I would say, 7-ish miles away from where we were at. And these taxi drivers, they're owner operated. They leave and pick up the next one. Well, we got out, we all took our gear, and my wallet had fallen out with all my money, all of my identification, credit cards, everything, and it had fallen out of my pocket in the car. And then we got to the gig, we sound checked. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know I was missing it. We go off. We go.
We went for dinner.
For dinner. Yeah, and then we came back, and then the driver that had taken us there, was there waiting for us. He's like, "I have your wallet," and I was like, "Oh my God!" I had no idea. I knew I didn't have it on me, but I in my half antibiotic minded self thought I'd left it back at the Airbnb, and he's like, "No, here it is," and he handed it to me. And I tried to get here, do you take some money? Like, he's like, no, it's fine. It's totally fine. and that just left me with such a positive impression of Beijing in particular. I know, it's not exactly, politically the most expedient thing to talk about, China but I will say that left me with a really positive experience, and I felt probably one of the safest places I felt was in Beijing, to be honest, to be
Although
truthful.
that is the same place that the Instateller ate Saul debit card, right?
Saul's debit card.
It was the same night. The same night, just before. The ATM ate it.
That was it.
Actually, I don't know if these guys know this, but I ended up we were playing in Taichung at the jazz festival, and I had put my GoPro on one of these light bars on the side of the stage. And probably about, I think it was around, we came back to the hotel and I just realized, I said, I forgot to take it back. And luckily, I emailed or texted the guide and they said they found it. And then they're like, oh, don't worry, there'll be guards the whole night and we'll take you back in the morning. And I was like, oh, I don't know if and then I was like, I'd rather go back now. Anyway, so she took me there super late at night. I forgot, and I ran up and it was still hooked up to the sound bar and I was able to grab it back. But I could have lost my GoPro because it was.
And speaking of safe, that show was a pretty amazing show because we played in front of 10,000 people in the middle of the city in this big square park thing.
Yeah,
and it's huge stage lighting and backstage, but it's just kind of black cloth over the scaffolding, and there was a little red rope in front of the stage, but it's a huge stage. I mean, Woodstock stage, and no security, and everybody's doing the right thing. Nobody's messing up. I mean, they told me the respect that people had, but also I guess you don't screw up because if you do screw up, it could be bad.
Yes.
I've heard that most of the Asian countries, especially in China, when you get out away and you're just hanging out, mingling with the people, that they're really nice people.
That's been our experience, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. It was also kind of a trip too, because when we flew from Hong Kong to China, to Beijing, I remember seeing this guy in a uniform. He'd stand up periodically, and he would take pictures of the passengers. That was really trippy for me, And then we get off the plane, and we have to go and do the facial recognition thing, and it was it was an interesting experience because everywhere you went, they they could track you if you were a dissident or some weird cat or something, but I didn't even trip on it that much, and we went to the Forbidden City.
Where?
Yeah, Tiananmen Square. We had to go through the security lines and stuff, Yeah, but it was worth it for me. I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool going into.
We had that Peking duck.
Oh my God! And that coffee. They had that Ethiopian yogurt in the coffee shop.
Yeah,
and it was delicious. I mean, just beautiful. Man,
that's making me want some coffee. I could really go for a good cup of coffee.
Hey guys, I hate all of you guys, but it's my little one's, bedtime now, so I'll have to actually jump in.
Well, it's way past my bedtime.
Yeah, it's 9:30. It's 9:30. This is about the end time. I want to just make this. I want to say thank you for being here, the stories, and having this Friday night hang with me. And we'll get Tom the next time. I want to say people can find this album you did, the SJZ Collective. Ask Me Now is a song that I have up right now, but they can find this Reimagines Monk on iTunes. That's you guys.
Yep.
And do you have anything else? Or can they find it other places?
Well, it's on all the streaming services, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm going to play a little bit of this. Thank you for being here and hanging out. It's been great fun. I'm going to play a little bit of this, and then I'll close out the show like normally. And let everybody listen to this music. I am playing Ask Me Now. Who arranged that?
That would be me.
Well, okay.
There it is.
Oscar.
There you go.
There it is.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.